In this video, I'm going to explain how fascists mainstream their ideas into our political discourse. And I'm going to start by talking about pineapple on pizza. Let's say that I hate pineapple on pizza. Not just dislike it. I actively despise the very concept of it. If I had my way, any restaurant that served pineapple on pizza would have its owners put on trial and executed. But I can't just say that because it sounds crazy. Because it is crazy. Obviously, my hatred of pineapple on pizza is a personal preference, and we can't just base laws about what other people should do on what I personally don't like. But at the end of the day, I really want pineapple on pizza to no longer exist. So I come up with a moral argument. I say some kids have pineapple allergies, and sometimes those allergies are deadly. And since pizza is a food that children like, we have to protect children with pineapple allergies by banning restaurants from serving pizza with pineapple. With that one simple argument, I have now framed this as an issue of protecting kids, rather than an issue of my own personal preference. And now I have a plausible motive other than my own self-interest. I just want to protect kids. And anyone who disagrees with me must want kids to die of anaphylactic shock. But people aren't stupid. A lot of you will recognize that that argument makes no sense. It assumes too much. It assumes that the only way to protect people with pineapple allergies is to ban pineapple on pizza, ignoring the fact that pineapple is available in plenty of other places, ignoring the fact that we could have a contamination-free kitchen in pizzerias that serve pineapple to avoid having that pineapple come in contact with other foods. The argument simply doesn't hold up, and plenty of people will start to point that out. But they have just fallen into my trap, because while they're playing logic games, I am playing a game of emotion. People run on emotion much more than we like to admit. We like to think of ourselves as these rational creatures who can think our way out of any situation. But simply put, emotion matters more. Our emotions dictate more of our behavior than our logic ever will, and plenty of psychological research backs that up. So when you say pineapple on pizza isn't actually killing kids, what a lot of people are going to hear instead is, I don't care if a few kids die. But let's bring this back to reality. Because if this is starting to sound suspiciously relevant to other debates going on right now, then you'll notice that one side always seems to be making these types of moral arguments. One side is consistently promoting horrible, destructive ideas under the banner of protecting kids. The other side, meanwhile, is trapped in an endless Sisyphean cycle of explaining why those arguments are bad. And psychological research actually backs this up. Multiple studies have shown that conservatives react much more strongly to emotional appeals than liberals do. But before you think I'm slandering conservatives and defending liberals, have a look at the symbol on my shirt. See, as a communist, what I'm aware of is that liberals rely way too heavily on logic, while conservatives rely way too heavily on emotion. And you don't win over the people who rely on emotion by appealing to them with logic. Why would you do this when time and time again we have proven that no matter how thoroughly you debunk something with logic, the emotional core of that argument cannot be changed? When people hear something like, trans people are grooming our kids, no matter how many times you explain to them that, well, actually, this percentage of people are actually, it doesn't work, because all people are retaining is the idea that kids are in danger, and you're not addressing that point. You think you are, but you're not, because the person you're talking to is thinking with emotion, not logic. The other problem is a lot trickier because it turns out that the majority of people repeating these moral arguments have the same motives I do. They know that they're making a bad argument. They know that really they just don't like pineapple on pizza. But they're going to repeat the argument because the more people that repeat the argument, the more it seems like people seriously believe in this argument. So you can debunk them with all the facts you want. They're still going to use the argument as a plausible deniability from their real opinions. So you actually can't win even if you appeal to emotion. There are a few people who have heard these moral arguments and just didn't know enough to debunk them, and you might be able to convince those people to back away from that position. You might be able to explain to some people that they've been tricked into thinking pineapple on pizza is killing kids, and you might convert them back to reality. But you're not going to convert the cynical people who are just repeating my argument because they know that they can't say their real opinions out loud. And that is why it is never productive to argue with or debate fascists. You might get a lot of views on Twitch if you debate fascists all day, but at the end of the day, all you're doing is lending an air of legitimacy to their cynical, fake arguments. But here's the good news. They are cowards, because if they weren't cowards, they wouldn't be hiding behind these moral arguments. They would just come right out and say, I personally hate pineapple on pizza and don't think anyone should be allowed to have it. It's a different day for me, not for you. So let's talk about how we actually address this problem. As I've pointed out, appealing to logic isn't going to work, but appealing to emotion doesn't really work either because most of the people making these moral arguments, or more likely repeating them when they've heard them elsewhere, know the game, they know what they're doing. And so the only way you can really respond to these tactics is to put your foot down and say, we're not going to tolerate this. You don't engage in the argument, you just respond with your fists. Because the reason fascists run on the emotion of fear and try to project that fear onto everyone else is because deep down, they are a bunch of snivelly, snot-nosed little cowards. The only language they respond to is violence. When confronted with violence, they will back down entirely. And we have plenty of examples of this throughout history, where fascists came into a town and tried to intimidate people, and the people fought back violently, and the fascists left, turned tail and ran, never to return. You don't waste your time debating these people because that gives their fake arguments the air of legitimacy. You just shut them down wherever you can. Run them off of internet platforms, run them out of your town square, run them out of their goddamn homes. There's no other way to combat this.